Cashflow Diary Podcast, episode 292.
Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast, the podcast that teaches you insider tips, tactics, and strategies for creating leverage streams of cash flow into your life. Learn from top-performing entrepreneurs, business owners, investors, and thought leaders from across the globe as they share their secrets to success. Like what you learn on this and other Cashflow Diary podcast episodes? Go to learninvestingnow.com and sign up to receive powerful tips and information that will help you succeed as an entrepreneur and investor. Now, here's your host, investor, entrepreneur, business owner, educator, speaker, author, and master facilitator of Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow game, Jay Massey.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast. I'm your host, Jay Massey, and I am excited for you today. Here's why. Because there's a 2% club out there. I know you might have heard of the 1%ers, but I'm hoping many of you who are listening are willing to become a part of the 2% club. And I'm going to tell you what that is. More importantly, our guest is going to illustrate what that is and help you get into that club because it's very exclusive. The lifestyle is fun. You change. Great things begin to happen. But today, I gotta be honest with you guys. There's something that frustrates the tar out of me. I don't know why some people, I'm not saying you, but why some don't actually follow through, get what they want, chase their dreams, make it happen, even when they have access to the information, even when they have the time, even when they have every reason in the world to succeed, they still don't. Well, here's the good news. Today's guest is going to help you and I clear all of that up. So I'm pretty excited. Now, you may remember her from episode 125. Her name is Joan Sotkin. And if you missed episode 125, that's called Go Listen to It because it will help you become better in many ways, more than you think. And after you hear her today, I know you're going to go listen to the episode again. So, Joan, welcome. I'm glad to have you back.
It's so good to be here.
Excellent. So, before we get too far into it, let me ask you this question. I mean, because I know some people, they probably have been around since episode 125 and others maybe not so much. Tell us a little bit about, who you are, what you do, but most importantly, catch us up on what you've been up to since the last time you were here.
Okay. So I've got a site called prosperityplace.com, which I've had for 21 years. I've been doing business online for 21 years. And my goal is to help people live happier, healthier, more prosperous lives. And I do that through coaching and through content by sharing information with people. I have a book, Build Your Money Muscles, 9 simple exercises for improving your relationship with money. And what I've become known for is my understanding of how family of origin issues affect your financial outcomes. And I've always wondered, why do people do such stupid things with their money? And so that's the thing that I look for and have created a number. And the thing I'm doing now is creating online programs so that I can spread the word to even more people.
Indeed. And for the few people that may not, or many people that may not know, describe family of origin issues because I know I got a question for you, but before we get that far, I want to help them understand what do you mean by family of origin issues?
The place where you were brought up. And for most people, that wasn't always a pretty story.
So we finally have a legitimate reason to blame mom and dad. Is that what you're telling me?
In a way, it's understanding mom and dad.
Right.
Because they were just as wounded as you were.
Right.
And it's pretty hard when wounded people are trying to make something work and they have no understanding of what's going on.
Right.
And so anytime there's any kind of abuse or neglect, whether there was alcoholism or drug abuse, if you were brought up in a very poor family or a very wealthy family, that comes with its own issues. And the things that created your emotional responses to life are things, those emotions are what you carry with you through your life. And I really believe that our emotions are the creative force behind our life stories, because every decision we make has an emotional element. And when you can understand why and how you're making the decisions you're making, you can understand why you've got the outcomes you do and what you can do to change it.
Got it. And you're saying all of this wraps up into, honestly, how we affect or relate with something as simple or the concept of money.
Yes, because it's never about money. Money is just, money just sits there. It's, it's pieces of paper, numbers on a spreadsheet. And actually, money is something that only has energy when it passes between two people or entities. So it actually is a relationship. It's a symbol of relationship. And how you deal with money is how you deal with your relationship with yourself and others.
I love it. And now, everyone, you really need to go listen to episode 125, don't you? So let me ask you this question, Joan, because there's something, I'm sure you're beginning to discover this as you go out into the world and help individuals become bigger, better, badder, and understand that, hey, it's not about money. It's more, it could be more about mom and dad and you and all these other things that are wrapped up there. Help me answer this one question, because I know there's at least one person who's listening right now. They bought a course. They went to a seminar. They said, yes, I'm going to change. I'm going to become a different person. But yet they're listening today, still waiting for that change or new person to appear. Why does that happen?
It's something I call the identity factor, which kicks in anytime you try to make major change. And let me explain this. There's two elements to it. One is your brain. You've got this thing in your brain called the amygdala, whose job it is to keep you safe.
I feel like I'm in trouble as soon as you said it, my brain's involved. But okay, let's keep going.
That's okay. You've got a good brain. But everybody's got this thing called the amygdala that's been with us since the very beginning, at the time when there were saber-toothed tigers and other serious problems.
Right.
And so anytime we try to do something different or new, the amygdala kicks in and goes, danger, danger. And so you start fearing whatever you're trying to change. And you have to understand this, to understand that fear is coming from this, the reptilian part of your brain that's functioning on this very basic level. And the other thing is, any major change is a threat to your self-concept, your identity. In other words, if you're a person who has always struggled financially, when a lot of money starts coming in, you don't know how to be the person who has a lot of money coming in. And you probably, at the same time, haven't developed the financial management skills to deal with that money. And before you know, you're back where you were. So many people tell me that their income goes up and down and up and down. Goes up, they feel great. Goes down, they feel normal. And it's getting back to that normal thing that's the problem. And to make matters worse, when you start changing, it's also a threat to your peer group and your family of origin, your brothers, your sisters, your position in your family of origin. So, for example, I was the identified patient in the family. What's the matter with Joni? And we always rescue her. And why does she have to do this? Well, when I started getting really financially independent, and I didn't need them, they hadn't signed up for change. So I remember one time I told my mother, do not lend me money no matter what story I tell you, because that was our pattern.
I see.
And so everything went fine, about 6 months, and I'm doing really great. My mother says, I'm going to give you $5,000. And I said, why? She said, I think you need it. And that's when I realized that she needed to rescue me as much as I needed to be rescued. And she wasn't willing to give up her position of power because she was the one with the money.
Wow.
And so I just had a client yesterday who had been to therapists, and she's been trying to get to a certain place for years, and we were making real headway. And she says to me, my husband says, I can't do this anymore. We can't afford it. I can't tell you how many times after 3 to 5 sessions with a client, I hear I can't afford this, because that's their excuse for not moving forward, because the changes they're making is a threat to who they perceive themselves to be, their position in their peer group, and their position in their family of origin.
Okay, and I hear these things, and I have to ask the question, though. Many times when we're going for change, for example, when I'm dealing with new people who want to become real estate investors all the time, I'm dealing with new properties. I mean, every time, even if you are existing real estate investor, changing, say, from single family homes to multifamily homes, from multifamily homes to cell phone towers, commercial, all these things are these threats. But these are the things that we've identified as, I want this. So why is it perceived as a threat if this is supposedly something we actually want?
Because I don't know how to be that person. I know how to be a person who owns single family homes. The minute I get into multifamily homes, I've got a whole new set of issues I have to deal with. Like all those
got people. That right.
Okay, like all those people. Yeah. And it's all those people that I'm really afraid of, because what if they screw over me? What if they don't pay the rent? What if they destroy the apartments? I mean, you have all that, and I never had to deal with that before. So you get what I call the moving stupids.
Okay.
The moving stupids is when you move from one house to another. You really want to be in the new house, but you get really stupid. You bump into walls, you lose your wallet, you lose your keys, because the new position is disorienting. And it's disorienting to be the multi-unit owner rather than the single family unit. And it's like, it feels really uncomfortable. Even though there's a part of it that goes, yes, there's another part that goes, what am I supposed to do now? And you've got all these new people you have to deal with, the bank. And so you just make it go away.
Interesting. Now, I guess my question then is, the instinct can be to make it go away, because then at least the feeling goes away. So, but some people make it.
Yes, and the question is, how do you fix it?
Yeah, like,
no matter what's not working, the question is, how do you fix it?
Like, I don't want to. Not. I mean, once you identify something like that, you're like, because I know in my own head. Yes. I can think about times where I've done that. And to add to that, we just moved physical locations. So the bathroom, the clothes, everything's in a new spot. So it's like,
you've got the moving stupid.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, yeah. And then I was thinking it's even more pronounced when the light's off, because at night you're like, nothing's where it used to be. I really, really, really don't know where I'm going. So.
And you're in a new neighborhood, and
exactly,
and you've got to find new places to shop, and I mean, all those things. It's when the brain wants it to be the same, doesn't want to change.
It sure does.
Okay, so you're in this fight or flight space most of the time, and that's not comfortable. So the first thing is to recognize what's going on and to understand that this is temporary. You're in a tunnel of transition. You have no idea how long the tunnel is or what's on the other end. And you have to really pay attention to what's going on in the moment, to not fear the future, but to have faith that you'll figure it out somehow, and to just be present with what's going on now.
Wow. Okay, everybody, I know you're listening, but I hope you're also paying attention. Because what she just said is probably one of those moments where if you are on the treadmill, you probably just, you need to hear that again. If you were washing dishes, hear that part again. If the kid screamed, you're going to want to get every word. You might even want to write it down. Because I really like this concept of the tunnel of transition. Talk to me more about that.
Well, you start changing, and you're really in this unknown space. I know how I used to be, and I know how people respond to me. For example, if I'm an angry person and I decide I want to work through my anger. Well, I know that I can control everything around me by being angry, by just, kind of pushing people away.
Right.
Well, when I start letting people in, I don't know what that's going to feel like, how I'm going to deal with that. And the fear kicks in. What if I don't know how to do this right? What if they hurt me? So there's always that fear of what's going to happen. And actually, when you're in fear of what's going to happen, you're making up a story because you have no idea what's going to happen. It's like you have no idea what's going to happen. And unless you're willing to just pay attention in the moment, you're going to move into fear. There are some things you can do to minimize the fear. For example, one of the first places people go with the fear is the financial fear. Oh, I'm going to run out of money. I don't know if this is going to work. And then I'm going to be out on the street and all that drama that gets created in your head. And so I find that at times like this, it's really important to be connected to your numbers, to really keep track of your money and your cash flow. Because like you're in a new house, you're in a new space. It's so easy to say, well, I need this and I need that and I need this and I need that. And you're going to be spending money like crazy in order to fill in that void that you're feeling while you're in the tunnel. And you've got to stay in touch with your money because your money is kind of the instrument that you use to connect to the world. Does that make sense?
It does. I like you mentioned about filling in this void. Would I be correct in hazarding a guess and saying that void can exist in many different forms?
Yes.
And maybe our habits around money would substitute for that, for filling it in. The whole, what's that word? Retail therapy is what I was thinking. Is that what you're kind of saying?
First of all, and I'm glad that you're in this space because we can use that as an example. You've moved into a new neighborhood. You've moved into a new space.
Oh, absolutely.
You feel less connected. And our core need is to feel connected and touched. When someone hands us money, it's a way of getting touched. When we hand someone money and they go, oh, thank you, or, oh, you really look great in that new suit, that's a way of getting touched. And when we're in this unfamiliar place, we look for this basic need of connection to be fulfilled. And we do that by shopping, by needing this and needing that, because we haven't, again, that tunnel of transition can feel like an empty place. Feel like, that's the operative word. So you have to be aware of the feelings you're going through so that you're not making decisions to fill in that void.
Interesting. So what keeps some people, if this is the case, and I can relate very viscerally right now to these emotions, because like I said, we just moved. I mean, been here, 13 days, 14 days, or what have you. And everything's different. Neighborhood is different. How I get to Starbucks is different. It's like, it's not the same. It takes longer. It's all different. And it's been a great experience, but at the same time, how is it when it feels to be more voluntary? Like, for example, if you're going for one of those move up goals, or, you want to go from, say, 100,000 a year to 200,000 a year, or 110 grand a month to 100 grand a month, or whatever it is, relative to the individuals that are listening or ourselves. Sometimes those goals can feel optional, meaning when we get into this tunnel of transition that you speak of, we realize, you know what? I don't have to keep going. I can just turn around. I know
and that's what most people do.
Okay.
Because they're afraid of the unknown that lies ahead.
Are you really listening to what we're talking about? I mean, I think it's awesome. Hopefully you're catching it. And most importantly, if you are in the middle of the moving stupids, because you are transforming in some way, shape, or form, please keep going. Let me say it again. Please keep going. I know It's tough. It's challenging. You're trying to become something new. Something new inside you is looking to be born, and it feels awkward, and you're not even sure how to find your leads and write your offers and make these things happen. Guess what? We all have been through it, and you can do it too. Now, here's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping that you want some free assistance. What do I mean by that? You can go over to cashflowdiary.com/free book. Again, cashflowdiary.com/free book. Pick up a copy of my book, Cashflow Diary, 10 Steps to Creating Wealth in Any Economy. You will have the PDF sent straight to you. Or for those of you who like the audiobook, by all means, do the exact same thing. Go there, and we got a special offer for you that you'll be able to pick up the audiobook at a 50% discount. So again, go to cashflowdiary.com/free book. Get the PDF now. But right now, let's get back to the rest and listen what Joan has to say.
In other words, if you have a $75,000 a year habit, and that's, that's what you usually make, and
sure.
If you've gone up and down, you always come down to the 75,000. When you're looking at 200, you got to change your daily activity. You don't just say, I want to make $200,000 and suddenly $200,000 comes in. You have to do something different from what you've been doing. And you got the moving stupids. and you're not sure what the outcome is going to be. When you're doing something familiar, even if the outcome normally is disappointment or dissatisfaction, it's what you can count on. If you're looking to make that kind of money and you've always had disappointment stories, well, you're expecting to be disappointed again.
Interesting.
It's not like a single button you can press and go, okay, I'm fine.
Come on, Joan. We need the single button. I want the single button late at night for 1997. And if I act now, I'm going to get a second one for free.
That's why I got such a hard job, because it takes time. You don't just hop from one place to another. You actually morph into a new place. And most people set goals that are really unrealistic. For example, if you've got a $75,000 a year habit, and you say, "Well, I want to earn $300,000,"
sure,
that's so far away that you're not going to get there. You really should aim for like 10 to 15% higher than where you are today, and just walk there slowly. It'll be much more comfortable, because the bigger the leap, the stronger the sense of disorientation.
Interesting. Okay. All right. So let's talk about that sense of disorientation, because you're giving me some context for some of the clients that I work with individually now, because many times there's this disorientation from, I'm an employee. Now I want to be self-employed business owner, investor thing.
That's a big one. Because
that's my world.
That's a big one. Mine too, because I talk to a lot of wannabe entrepreneurs.
Right.
And if you've gotten a paycheck for 10 years, 15 years or more, and suddenly you have no idea what your income is going to be from month to month, that is scary. And it's the one skill that you need in order to be in business for yourself is dealing with uncertainty. Because the minute you don't see what's ahead, your amygdala kicks in and says, danger, danger. And that's when you go back to where you are.
Well, yeah, I'm sitting here thinking, like, I want to find the easier or softer way to say it, but that's there. It's like
surprise.
There isn't. It's
that's why. If it were easy, there would be more people doing it, and there wouldn't just be 2%.
Wow. I mean, yeah. I guess I hadn't really thought about how much uncertainty I deal with on a daily basis, or how much uncertainty. I guess it's just become. It's like, hey, this is just how it is. I deal with a lot of uncertainty every day. What's the big deal? Right. And I can become desensitized to that in my communication and wonder, like, what's up?
Once you make the decision that whatever fear I feel based on a story I'm making up about the future. It's not what exists in the future. It's what I am making up about the future. And I might as well make up a better story.
Ain't that the truth?
The way I deal with it, entrepreneurs deal with money on a regular basis. And so by managing my cash flow and seeing, I have a spreadsheet that I make available to people. You just have to go to prosperityplace.com/spreadsheet because I want it in one screen to be able to look at what I owe, what I perceive coming in, and what's left over. And so I can see in one little box a red number or a black number. And if it's a red number, then I know I have to take action.
Right.
People say, well, I don't have enough money. And I'll say, well, how much do you need? And they usually don't have a number. But, okay, how much do you need? And what can you do to bring in that money? That's what entrepreneurs live by. If I don't have enough today, what can I do to get more?
Yeah, pretty much.
And it's resourcefulness. If you're not resourceful, you shouldn't be in business for yourself. If you're waiting for someone else to tell you what to do, you're in bad shape.
Okay, all right, Joan.
I think it helps to have a coach.
Do me a favor. Just somebody, the dog barked. They tripped over a kid's toy. Something. Say that again, because I want them to hear what you just said. I really, really, really need them to hear what you just said.
Okay. If you're not resourceful, you're not going to make it because you have to figure things out. And if you're having a tough time figuring out, here's the other key. Remember I said our core need is to feel connected? Yeah. Go talk to someone. Get a coach. Get a mentor.
Right.
Join a group. You can't do this alone because you're only seeing what's in front of you from your past point of view.
Ooh. I like that one.
Okay, so you have to get someone else to say, well, why don't you look at it this way? And if you look at it that way, I was working with a client yesterday and she definitely needs to get a certain amount of money a month. And she was just stuck in thinking, well, how can I do more of what I'm doing? And she knew that wasn't going to work. So I'm not in her business, but it was really clear to me some of the options that she had. Sometimes you don't see your options. And sometimes you need someone to help you see your options.
Right.
So it's a combination of two things. It's what's going on inside of you, what your habits are, what your expectations are, and what you're doing externally, how you're taking care of your money, what kind of marketing you're doing. If something's not working, then you got to change it. Also, I've been doing business online for 21 years. And over that time, things have changed quite dramatically.
That's an understatement.
I remember when there was no shopping cart, and no video. And so things have changed. And the only way I can survive in this environment is by constantly learning new things. It's like now I'm working on online courses and suddenly everybody's talking about online courses and it'll be like webinars where there's a big, spike in webinars and then they go away and there'll be a big spike in online courses and they'll go away. But I like online courses as part of the future. And so I've learned everything. I don't just do an online course. I learn everything I can about the proper way to put them together. And I was doing it on one platform and they changed their pricing structure. And I said, okay, I can see that I'm not going to make what I thought I was from that platform. So how can I integrate that into something else? And I came up with a different business plan. And you have to keep doing this. And if you just sit there, oh my goodness, things have changed and it's so hard to make money and blah, blah, it's not going to work.
Joan, you're right. And I love it because there are some people and this is very prevalent among the real estate investing community, where the market will change on them. They're like, well, I can't find any inventory. There are no buyers. There are no sellers. I mean, they'll be in the same room. One person's complaining there's no buyers. The other person's complaining there's no sellers. Somebody else is complaining, I can't find a teammate. And everybody is in the same room. And it's hilarious,
Yes.
at best. And it's funny how sometimes basically what you're describing is we're in our own way. Yes?
Yes. And absolutely. Because we have a certain set of expectations. The person who can't find the inventory is someone who expects to be disappointed and may be afraid of actually dealing with the inventory. In other words, there's something going on this internal level that's really hard for people to recognize by themselves, because their feeling habits, their emotional habits are so much a part of who they are. They've been with them since childhood that they don't even recognize what they're feeling. And most people don't have a particularly good feeling vocabulary.
Whoa. Okay, so you bring up the concept of a feeling vocabulary. Tell me more about that.
Okay, if I were to say to you, how are you feeling? Most people go, duh. What am I feeling? I feel awful. Okay, so if that's as far as you can go, then let's take that.
I see.
Because what I teach people to do is, because you're always feeling something. When you look at you, and the one
not according to my teenagers.
Yeah, well,
but okay.
You're always feeling something. Okay.
Right.
But
Well, my wife.
Most people don't admit it.
My wife. How are you feeling? Fine. Uh-oh.
Fine. Right.
I'm in trouble.
But that's got to do with relationships. They don't want you to know how they're feeling. They don't know how to talk about their feelings. And this, to me, it's actually an important point. People don't know how to talk about their feelings. And they're ashamed of what they're feeling very often. And shame is a feeling. So let's take your bank balance. Okay. Most people, when they look at their bank balance, they don't go, whoopee, look what I got. They look at the bank balance and they feel contracted. Okay, can you relate to that?
Not anymore.
Okay, well, but you know what that means.
Yes, I do.
Okay, you had that feeling at some point in your life.
Many points.
Okay, so what you do is you recognize that you feel contracted. Where are you feeling the contraction? Are you feeling it in your chest? Are you feeling it in your abdomen? Are you feeling it in the back of your neck? That's a feeling. And you say to yourself, when did I feel this before? And invariably, you can go back in time and remember that contracted feeling when you asked for your allowance, when you were listening to your parents fight about money.
Wow.
Do you see how that feeling is not something that came just from the bank balance? The bank balance is a neutral thing. It's got no feeling attached to it. It's just there. The situation is neutral. What you feel about the situation is what you're bringing to the situation.
Interesting. There's a guy I know, T. Harv Eker. He says nothing has any meaning except the meaning that you give it.
Exactly.
And this is it. So, in essence, if I'm hearing you correctly, we've assigned a meaning to something so long ago. We've forgotten that we made that assignment back then, and it's still affecting us today. And in fact, it shows itself up in how the decisions we make or don't make.
I'd say it a little differently.
Okay, yeah, please.
I'd say it's not that we didn't respond to a specific thing. Okay. It's like we responded to the world around us when we were brand new or growing up.
Sure.
And we didn't know that we had options as to how we were going to respond to it.
I see.
So when someone growled at us, because sometimes it looks like grown-ups are growling, we retreated, we contracted, okay? It was our response to a world that wasn't accepting of us in one way or another. And so we created this idea that the world is not accepting to us. And when we move forward, that fear of not being accepted shows up over and over again. And our decisions are made to protect ourselves from being rejected. So sometimes we don't take risks. We're afraid of making mistakes because we don't want someone to growl at us. We remember the growl, but it's so ingrained in us that we don't remember that core thing.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So now that you've brought this, like it's like you can't solve a problem that you don't know exists. What are the top 3 things we can do when the next time we, or at least are aware, or hopefully more aware that this is what's occurring? I mean, because I know for somebody, you're going to be presented with an opportunity within 24 hours of listening to this, and it's going to bring something like this up. What do they do?
Well, first of all, I believe you have to prepare for that kind of episode by getting in touch with yourself and meditating on a daily basis. To me,
Excellent.
that is an essential skill.
No disagreement.
Because you have to be able to take a deep breath in and quiet yourself and develop this communication system with the part of you that sees a bigger picture. You can call it your inner voice. Some people call it their angels, whatever you're going to call it.
Right.
It's a part of you that is connected, there's that word again, connected to the greater reality. There's a part of us that exists in what I think I'll call other dimensions. When we're trying to describe something like this, whatever words we're using are not the truth, but they're just what we're perceiving. So there's a part of you that has abilities that are so much greater than you realize, but that amygdala gets in your way when you want to use those abilities. So you have to develop a system where you can short circuit that, where you can sit still and just be still. I can't tell you how many things happen on a daily basis where I'm kind of amazed that I needed the answer to something and it just shows up, or I don't know what to do next and something happens and it's very clear.
Right.
Things that are, let me give you happened the other day.
Okay.
I'm at a meeting in this restaurant and there's a clock on the wall. And I look at the wall and it says 11:16. This was in the morning. And I noticed that and I thought, we haven't been here that long. That seems strange. So I looked again a few minutes later and it's still 11:16. And after about the 4th time, I said to myself, I wonder what time it really is. And I took out my phone and looked at the time and it was 11:16.
That's funny.
It was like, oh my God. That kind of thing just blows me away. And that kind of stuff happens to me all the time.
Yes. Time moves slowly for you. This is good.
But it's right. But it's, things happen that I can't imagine.
Yeah, no, I get it.
It just, and I believe now that my needs will be met. And they are. And I'm not always in the state of longing. This is an important one. One of the feelings that develop in early childhood, when you don't get the touch you need, when you're not acknowledged, when there's any kind of abuse or neglect, is a feeling of longing. And that longing translates as an adult into under-earning and what I call over-earning, where you never have enough. And that longing for money is the same feeling as the longing for touch. And once you realize these things, once you stop thinking about money, and you understand it's never about money, you just say, what am I feeling and when have I felt this before?
Wow. I'm sure I said this to you last time, but I'm saying it again. I feel like we could talk forever on this subject because it's far-reaching. It has great impact. It changes us in so many different ways. And there's not a minute of our day where it's probably not playing itself out in some way, shape, or form. So because I know I'm not the only one, how, for the people that have listened this far, how can they find out more of what you're up to and understand more? Because I know some want to go deeper with this information because it's too intriguing not to.
Okay, so I have my podcast on prosperityplace.com. And every other episode, I just talk for 20 minutes. I don't run out of things to say. I was born talking, and that's my talent, is talking. And so Prosperity Place is the place to go. I do have the courses on udemy.com. One of them is Simple Meditation for Busy Entrepreneurs. And the other one is Financial Freedom Formula, a holistic blueprint for success. And these are basic beginning courses. The one I'm working on now, which will be connected to Prosperity Place, is this whole emotional thing and the identity factor. This identity factor piece is so important. I can't stress it. And it's not like you can grok it the first time because it's so different from anything you've heard. And my book, Build Your Money Muscles, has the basics. And that, too, people will say, oh, I went through the first 3 chapters. And I say it's like vitamins. You have to put them in your mouth. You know, you've got to read through it and really try to grasp it because it's a threat to who you've been.
Yeah.
And the people who do get through it and do make the changes are thrilled with the results. And anyone who's getting into a new business, a new kind of investing, if you don't begin to understand what's going on inside of you, you're going to be tripping over your own feet day after day.
Well, and again, I don't think it's so much the tripping. It's not knowing why you're tripping and not knowing how to process that tripping that then makes you make a second mistake, which for most people, as you said, 98% go the other way. Yet, and then wish they were a part of the 2% club, and then they start going back and forth.
Is that feeling of longing,
right? They just start going back and forth over and over again, driving themselves, I would say, insane, wondering why do I keep starting, never finishing, and not quite making it?
Because if longing is one of your habits, you're going to do whatever you can to maintain that feeling of longing until you understand what's going on. Because the feelings that form the fabric of your life are so invisible to you. It's like the little tiny threads in an inch of fabric. They're so invisible to you that you really have to work at looking at them. And then you have to say, how can I alter this one step at a time so I can move into this new position? For those 2% of people, they have no problem doing this. But for the 98%, it's so much harder.
Well, here's what I will say. One, I am grateful that you came back. Second, I'm glad that I can self-identify as a part of the 2% club, and I'm glad that you're out there helping more people become a part of the 2% club as well.
It certainly helps people like you because the more there are, the better your business will be.
This is true. This is very, very true. Yet at the end of the day, the change you're bringing about, I think, it's more for me. It's a lot about husbands and fathers and mothers who feel hopeless to make something different happen for themselves and for their families because they've got this vision in their head that's stuck, and you have the ability to help it at least be able to process differently so that they could probably stick in long enough. That's it. Because they get into the tunnel and they turn around just before they might actually see some light.
Right.
And you can give them the tools necessary to stick in long enough. So I totally appreciate what you're doing. Again, thank you for taking the time to share your information here with us at the Cashflow Diary.
My pleasure.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. You know what time it is. It's time for you to move at the speed of instruction. What does that mean? That means you probably should head over to prosperityplace.com. Why? Because there's a podcast, there's a spreadsheet, there's all the answers that you have been looking for because you want to be a part of the 2% club too. Just admit it. That's why you listened this far. I know it. You know it. Now you know what you need to do about it. It's been fun talking to you guys today. I look forward to talking to you soon. Until next time.